The Senate Republicans' transportation plan would infuse $1.3 billion in road and bridge infrastructure in the next 2 years and calls for $3.6 billion in funding over 10 years without raising the gas tax. Chair of the Transportation Committee, Senator Scott Newman, now joins me in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You are focusing on road and bridge infrastructure in your plan. How would you currently grade Minnesota's road and bridge system, and what would this bill do to improve it?
In terms of bridges, I would be frankly more concerned about the condition of our bridges in the state of Minnesota, and I'm talking statewide, than I would the roads. Overall, our roads are pretty good, although in the metropolitan area, very congested. What I'm really thinking more about is the future in terms of the funding that's going to be needed to not only maintain our current roads and bridges, but to actually improve them or expand them.
The legislative auditor issued a report last year that was critical of MnDOT's project selection process and how they choose which projects are going to be funded. Your plan calls for some common sense changes in that selection process. What are those changes? How would that work?
Well, first of all, the legislative auditor's report that you are referring to, for instance, made a statement that MnDOT has failed to follow the criteria laid out by the legislature for corridors of commerce, and in fact has inserted their own criteria, irrespective of what the legislature has said. I interpret that to mean that MnDOT is not following current law, and I have been very critical of MnDOT from the standpoint of their transparency and their selection process. What I've tried to put into this particular bill is to reinforce what the criteria is and mandate again that MnDOT not only follow the selection process but make it more transparent so that our constituents and our folks in Minnesota can be assured that they in fact have some input as to what roads and bridges and infrastructure MnDOT is going to use in their selection process.
So moving forward with this new money, are the projects already slated for which ones are going to be done next, or will this bill would change which projects are going to go forward?
That's the difficult question, because we don't know necessarily what projects are slated to go forward next. And that is, for instance, why I have pushed MnDOT as hard as I have to give us more transparency and give us an idea as to how it is that you are selecting the roads. The best example I can give you is Highway 12 going west out of the metropolitan area. That is, in fact, a very, very dangerous road. And I've driven it during rush hour, and it's backed up all the way west to Delano, which is a farm community west of the metro. And yet MnDOT has been very resistant to take the necessary steps to repair that road. And that's what the real controversy is about. So what I am hoping is that MnDOT will come forward with a selection process that's more transparent, that will tell folks in the legislature and the citizens of the state of Minnesota what roads and bridges are on to be fixed or repaired or improved, and why. And also answer the question, how come these other roads that we are asking for are not being fixed?
Let's move to comments by Governor Dayton and the Democrats. They've been critical of this plan, pointing out that the funding mechanism, which in part moves $400 million in auto-related sales from the general fund to a dedicated transportation fund, they argue that this puts existing money in competition with programs for education and health care. How do you respond to that criticism?
My response is number one, I think the people in the state of Minnesota have been clamoring for some kind of dedicated funding. And what I've tried to do with this bill is statutorily rededicate existing sales tax so that it goes into the trunk highway fund and is spent on roads and bridges. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm using statutorily dedicated funds because I do not have available to me a constitutional mandate to do that. To take the money out of the general fund, I do understand their criticism and their concern, but I tend to look at the state government budget from an overall standpoint, not the little silos, silos being transportation or HHS or education. I look at the whole budget. We've got about 5.5 million people in this state, and if you count up the state budget, the federal money that we get, the money that is paid at the local level, all of the fees that we pay as citizens, number one, I think we're already paying at least half of our income to the government in some form or fashion. And in total, we are currently spending about $80 billion a biennium. And so I begin to wonder, how many times can you go back to the well and extract money out of our citizens to pay for more and more programs? I'm candidly really nervous about the loss of revenue from the federal government on HHS, for instance. So I'm looking at it from a more global standpoint. I'm not looking at it from just the standpoint of money for transportation. I have to get money for transportation from someplace. And I think it's appropriate to get some of that money out of this enormous sum of money that the government has available to it right now.
One of the biggest sticking points is the disagreement between transit and transportation. In fact, your plan would eliminate the state's responsibility for a portion of operating costs for future light rail projects. How should the state handle the anticipated growth in the metro area, the current level of congestion, and the needs of those who rely on transit to get around? How do we balance that?
Two different questions have just been posed. The first one involves light rail. I personally and many of my colleagues strenuously oppose funding light rail. And we oppose it just as strenuously as some folks on the other side of the aisle are in support of it. My feeling is that at $100 million a mile to construct light rail and its inflexibility on delivering the services that folks, particularly in the metro, need, I think it's a very inefficient way to spend our money. So from that standpoint, I do support the notion of repealing the current statute that says the state of Minnesota is on the hook for paying for 50% of the future operating costs of light rail that have not yet been built. And I want your listeners and your viewers to understand that the state of Minnesota currently is not involved in the decision making of building those light rails. We simply are on the hook for paying for 50% of the operating cost. Now, to shift to your other question, transit. I very much support the notion of transit, both in greater Minnesota and in the metropolitan area. It's absolutely needed. But the question becomes, what are we going to use? And that's, I think, the conversation that I'm going to try to resolve next year. This year, roads and bridges.
Senator Newman, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.